We are already jammed up a storm. Karim Boulos, political analyst, is joining us ahead, of course, of the October 1st election as we head to the polls. Decision time. It is decision time, right?
Absolutely.
Latest polls, by the way, show that the decided voters are much more sure about their choice. And now it's up to different political parties to sort of catch and grab whoever's left. Why do you think, first of all, Karim, we just talked about this, that the Liberals aren't even sort of trying to reach out to more and more Francophone voters, where they're not doing well?
Well, I think that they've got a very bad relationship with Francophone voters at this time. I mean, this time of history. They've been abandoned by the Francophone vote. I think the Francophones are just tired of the Liberal Party. You know, they know that the Liberals have been there. They're the steady, structured organization that does these big, kind of grandiose type plannings, and nothing really changes. If you change government, you tweak 1 or 2% of what happens in our daily lives. But I think there's a desire for du renouveau.
Yeah,
try something new.
Change,
exactly.
The big C, change, right? But let's talk about that, right? So where's a Francophone voter to go right now? Because the CQ has very specific positions, right? That their stance on immigration has not gone as well as they hoped that it would, right? And then we just talked about Quebec Solidaire surging in the polls, and Quebec City in third. With, some would call pie-in-the-sky ideas. So where does a Francophone voter go? Well,
I mean, the Francophone voter gets divided, right? They get split among three parties, really. Liberals are counting on vote splitting. When you have a four-horse race, you're going to just sneak up the middle. And I think the Liberals are counting on that. Right now, if you're slightly right of center, and I mean slightly, you think CAQ. He looks like he's a right-wing radical, but he's not. I mean, Mr. Legault has presented ideas for, conservative investment and careful management and reducing waste and so on, but nothing drastic. If you're left, you've got two choices. If you're extreme left, yes, and we all have a social conscience. We all want to do the right thing and think socially and be concerned about our fellow citizens. So you've got the Quebec Solidaire option, and then the PQ is always there. Mr. Lisée over the last few weeks has really asserted himself as the perfect opposition leader. Right? I don't think he's shown anything to say, look, I'm going to be the great next premier. He said, I'll keep whoever...
He gets that, right? He knows that...
He knows. But he knows he's going to be... I think he's asserting himself as the opposition leader, which is dangerous for the Parti Québécois because you're not really seen as a viable option to run the province.
Right. So what do you make of this latest back and forth between Lisée and Manon Massé about, who's actually running Quebec Solidaire? Remember that huge faux pas that he just made? Was that strategy? What was he thinking, do you think?
Well, some people would say desperation. He's starting to see the grip on the French vote, on the sovereignist movement. It's almost as though Quebec Solidaire has taken over the sovereignty question, and she's openly discussing the whole plan for it. But we're going to do it socially and
bringing a partition even.
Oh yeah. So any town wants to leave us, sure. It's everybody can have everything that they want.
Very pie in the sky again.
Absolutely,
right?
You can have dessert before dinner.
Yeah.
Sure, no problem. So I think that he's realizing that, wait a sec, if this is going to be for the Francophones, a three-horse race among them, he better go and make sure that Quebec City doesn't go that way. So he's got to because it's always been Montreal and everything else.
Right.
And the CAQ does well outside of Montreal. And the PQ used to do well, but Quebec Solidaire has cut into that. And now Quebec Solidaire is reaching out into some of the more progressive, socially conscious regions, people that are, not overly scared of immigration, not overly scared of social programs and some of the pie-in-the-sky thinking. But that's Mr. Lisée's vote. It's not necessarily Mr. Legault's vote.
Let's talk now about what we were just a few days away. Again, we've got the CQ and the Libs neck and neck. What do you think is going to make the difference? Can anything make the difference? Can there be this big sweeping change of moment?
Well, I think if the leaders are smart, they just will be very quiet for the next 5 days. They're not going to say anything stupid to make sure that they don't disrupt the apple cart. I think that the damage has been done, and I mean damage very, very small with a very minuscule D. Mr. Couillard with a $75 grocery thing, and oh my God, he's so out of touch. Mr. Legault on immigration, although he's kind of backed off a little bit, but oh, he's so radical. The Parti Québécois is, well, again, sovereignty, we're flogging that horse. So at this point, they've all said what they have to say. They've said their piece. And, the vote has already, many people have already voted. And I don't trust, look, if polls have told us anything, is that they mean nothing, right? All the polls were, for the last 4 or 5 years, whether it's the U.S., provincial,
well, the polls
municipal,
in the U.S. didn't reveal,
zero.
Nobody knew Trump was going to be president.
No.
Yeah.
And you look at people like me and you, and we're all analyzing, and he said this, and this was the recent numbers on, it doesn't mean anything, because when you say, I can say, you know what, let's give Quebec Solidaire a chance. Then I get there and I get my little piece of paper and I've got my pencil and I think, you know, Couillard didn't do such a bad job. My taxes aren't too bad. And let's go back to what I know. You know, the devil you know. And so, and there are the people who say, you know what, forget it. We're going to make that move. Right? It's very volatile, and in that last moment, people will change their mind. So I think the key right now is not to do anything silly before Monday's vote.
So everyone should be quiet.
They're going to be quiet. Okay. They're going to be glad-handing.
Karim Boulos, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll see you very, very soon ahead of this October 1st election. Don't go anywhere. Catherine has your look at weather and traffic. You're watching Breakfast Television on City TV.